please tell me what the asterisk after trans means.
Oh, the asterisk after trans. So it's just an identity where if you put, if you Google search something, you put an asterisk, it usually gives you that name and then everything else under it. So really it's a umbrella term, kind of a cool way of looking at trans. And what that does is it identifies not just transgender people, but all people under the transgender umbrella.
So it widens the filter as opposed to making it more narrow.
So when we talk about transgender people, sometimes our minds go to someone who either has had surgery or is this certain way, but actually it identifies gender non-conforming people, two-spirit, all of the wonderful gender queer people, all the wonderful people that lie under the trans umbrella.
Let's talk about non-conforming. That was a term I had not heard until I read your bio, and then until I heard you speak today.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Gender non-conforming, for me at least, I think it's everything is gender as an identity is personal, and gender non-conforming for me means that I don't fit into what is woman and what is man. I'm of the roles that society places on us. So, for example, when I had long hair and wore dresses, I would kind of sit, you know, like this and like take up more space. I felt like a guy, right? Like a guy. Now the short hair and the more masculine I present, I think, to the world, the more feminine characteristics I can take. So I feel like I take up less space, I think. I cross my legs, and it's hard because we have been so taught our roles as women or men, and to go against those is what I think gender nonconforming people do. At least that's what I do. So,
as a person, a gender nonconforming person, there's a difference between the person and the clinician. Explain to me how you bring those two together in a room.
Oh wow, that's a deep question. I think as a clinician, it's really important for me to be genuine. And so my clients are aware from the start who I am as a gender nonconforming individual. So when they say, a lot of people don't ask really where I'm thinking about it now, a lot of people don't ask where I work necessarily what gender pronoun I prefer, but they know via maybe someone who has asked, because clients tend to tell everything to everyone.
Absolutely, and that's human nature as well, Beck, is it not?
Yeah, and so what happens for me though when I talk about gender is that people or people know that I work with gender and trans people, is that they come to me and they say, you know, I'm just having some questions, and I think it opens up a door for people that wouldn't necessarily go to someone else and talk to them about. So I think that's an advantage. That's definitely a positive experience that I've had. And that doesn't mean that they're trans or anything, but they just want to talk about gender and their roles and how they feel, you know, stuck in their, you know, whether masculinity, femininity, and what that means.
I'm in a graduate program myself where we are looking at that piece of what society does to us, what society does to trans people, what it does to any particular group of people, and it's not just that person's problem.
Right. Yeah.
It's all of ours. Explain how we can be advocates as clinicians.
Right, as clinicians. I think that the best thing we can do is to listen to trans voices, do our research, read, get knowledgeable about the community, and I think that's the best thing we can do as clinicians. And I think that, but I love how you put it, it's not just the person's problem, it's the community's problem, because society bears so much weight on who we are as people, and that's across genders, and across the spectrum of gender, but for trans people especially, to know that you're not invisible, I think I talked a lot about that, about invisibility today, and to know that that your client is not invisible and important. And I think we try to do that with all clients, but especially trans people, I think, need to hear that, because it's been my experience that trans people have felt so insignificant in the world around them. And when it comes to gender, when it comes to walking in the roles that they live in. Because, you know, I might be transgender, but in my work world, I'm a man, and I wear suits, and I do this, but that's not really me. I just dress, you know, I just dress this part. It's just like a part I play. It's a mask I put on. And so what that does for someone who is in treatment is that I've hidden this my whole life. It's really easy to hide my addiction. It's really easy to lie about who I am, because I've done it for so long. It's so easy.
And is that not the point of whoever is in recovery from drugs and alcohol? You have a personal story. If you could just share that with me briefly.
Sure, yeah. I've been sober for 9 years. I just celebrated 9 years in June, and my experience actually, you know, I didn't hit I wasn't in jail. I wasn't, you know, I was a high bottom, is what they call it. But really, I lost relationships with my family. I've lost relationships with my personal relationships, my friends, love relationships. I was just kind of the tornado that went through their lives, and I didn't care. But really what it was, I didn't care about myself. You know, I didn't care about.
Do you think that was more the trans piece or more the
I think
addict piece?
You know, I didn't really come out as gender nonconforming until I didn't even really explore that until I got into recovery. So it could have been part of it, definitely.
Sure.
But a lot of it was just hiding. I had to hide who I was. I had to hide that I was gay. I for so many years I had to hide, and all I did was internalize I'm not good enough, and I'm not smart enough, I'm not all these things, not. And so I used drugs and alcohol to cope with that. And it made it easier to connect with people. And that's what recovery is about, and that's what addiction is about, I think, is connection.
Absolutely.
So.
And tell us how you got sober.
I was working at a bar, and I met this woman.
Oh, there's an irony.
Yeah, well, yes, I was working at a bar, I met this woman who came in. Her and her partner came in every night, not every night, but on nights, and they would stay till like 2 a.m. and dance. And there was something about them, and they were sober. They were sober, and they would order, you know, the classic mocktail of soda water and cranberry with lime, and we just became friends. And they were my token sober friends, and I was their token drunk friend, I guess. And then they said they were moving to Montana to open up a restaurant, that I should come with them. And I think they weren't really expecting me to come with them. They were just saying,
and
yeah,
you
come
went?
On. And I went. And I knew that I was gonna not be able to drink in their house. So and when you go to someone in recovery's house, that they have like a ton of like big books around. And so I would steal I stole one of their big books and would read it late at night, like like it was a dirty magazine. I would like stuff it under my bed, but I wasn't connecting, and they were going to meetings. They weren't saying, you know, come to a meeting with us. They were just living their life. So when it's attraction, not promotion, I was just attracted to it, and I came to them, and I said, either I'm going to die, I'm going to drink, or I need to try AA.
So you were a closet AA?
Yeah, I was.
Wow, and in Montana?
In Montana, and I walked in like this, and they accepted me. I have a really good friend who's a born and bred Montana cowboy, and we were like the odd couple, and we lived together for 2 years. He's one of my great friends, and I was just accepted for who I was in
and
Montana.
As a sober person in Montana.
Mm-hmm. Sober and queer, and you know, they loved me, they embraced me, they knocked on my door when I, you know, didn't show up to meetings. So my first 5 years of recovery was that, and then I moved to Minnesota to go to graduate school. So.
If you had to pick one thing that surprised you about the last couple, 3 days of being at this conference, which is titled Gender Matters, Men Matter.
Men Matter.
Talk to me about that. What would it be? What would be the one thing that surprised you, Beck?
Yeah, Dan told me when he invited me to this conference that he's like, it's probably going to rub you the wrong way, and it just says it's just a Gender Matters, Men Matter conference, and I said I do believe that men matter. I believe that all genders matter, women matter, and all the in between. And what I really loved about this conference is that it was so intimate and vulnerable, and the speakers really put themselves out there and took risks, which I don't normally see when I go to other conferences. And so the connections that I made with the guys that were here and the women that were here, and all for the same purpose of learning and also understanding. It was so cool. I think that was like the best part. I've never like left a conference being like, oh, I'm super tired, but I'm really fulfilled. It's usually I'm just super tired, like let's go home. But I just have so much to take from this that I feel blessed and grateful. So.
And what would you like to see happen in the future? Last question, I promise.
Last
take it wherever you like.
In the future, I think it would be great to do, of course, a conference on gender as in gender as a spectrum. So where you have a male's perspective, a women's perspective, the in-between, but also relating those all to sex and sexuality. I think that's like the next level stuff, and talking about what that means for recovery. So, because I think we don't talk about it enough. And it's such integral parts of who we are, just like gender is and sexuality is. They're so interconnected.